There we go. Hi everybody, I'm Selena Brilla and this is DIY Live, Huntsville, Alabama's YouTube channel and Facebook page dedicated to capturing the underground. And I'm here at Maggie Meyer's Irish Pub on August 26th for I Know You Are, But What Am I?
Yes.
This is Miss Ruthie Borden and she does all kinds of fantastic shows here in Huntsville and she's the hostess of tonight's show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about tonight's show, Ruthie?
All right, so tonight's show was actually kind of put together on the very, very last minute. We had another show that was scheduled and the band went out and we lost, so we were very lucky to get the bands that we got tonight. Unfortunately, it correlated with Ruthie's passing, and I've always wanted to do a PV show, and I thought, what better time while it's still, you know, fresh and to do it. So,
Yeah.
So the show's going to have 4 bands, and in between the bands, we're going to do a few fun PV things. You know, the little squeaky balloon contest, and doing the tequila dance,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. So hopefully, lots of people will participate. I think maybe we need to do like a tequila dance at the end of the night.
Oh, that would be
had
fun.
a little bit more tequila.
Yes.
Tends to work a little better that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be a really fun show, and you know, all this stuff.
It looks amazing. You've got the ant farm and the door and tinfoil and cherries here, and there's going to be, you can get fantastic photos over
Yep,
here
we
in
got
the
little
corner. There's a
photo
photo booth, and it's going to be a great show.
Oh, I hope so.
And the bands tonight are, we've got Drew from the Trash Cuts, he's going to be here, and we've got the Abusements
Yes.
from Montgomery.
Yes. And Dodd is playing bass with them.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
cool.
he spent a couple
Well,
days in Montgomery last week, and figured it out.
all right, if you don't know who Dot is, that is Ruthie's
Other half.
of Under the Moon Productions, and also other half in life. And he's been in tons of other bands too.
Right.
He's going to be with the Abusements this evening, and we've got Gasoline Tank.
Yes.
Love Gasoline Tank, and one more. And Tiger Homicide, awesome, from Gadsy.
Yes.
There'll be Gadsy.
There will be guys here for
Yay.
sure. Absolutely.
That's awesome. And I've interviewed all of those bands before, so you can go look through the Facebook page and the YouTube channel if you want to find interviews with those bands before. So let's talk about Miss Ruthie.
Okay.
Let's hear about let's talk about the origins of Ruthie, because you've got Ivana Cupcake.
That's
Let's
right.
talk about let's hear all the story.
Oh, let's how this all kind of began, I guess. I was probably about 13 years ago now. I saw an ad for a group that was kind of similar to what the Dolls I didn't know, but it's like a national one called it might be Modified Dolls, and they were putting on a pinup pageant. And this is going to sound so awful. I did it out of spite.
Oh, well, let's hear it.
My mother hated beauty pageants, and I always wanted to be in them, and she wouldn't let me, and which sounds very painful, but I was like, I'm going to do this. And I didn't expect to win. You know, I was a little bit heavier than I am now, and I was certainly the heaviest probably girl there, and we had to get a bathing suit, which I will never, ever do to anybody in any of our pageants that I can wear. I've had to be there, and I was in Muddy Roots in a bathing suit.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I'm modest. So I won.
Yay!
And I loved it. And then there was a tattoo one for me to see, and I went to it. Yeah, I was really excited about it, but they're kind of hard to find. And then I do hair. At the time, I was working at Huntsville, now at 5 Points Beauty Salon. And Chad Zielinski from Johnny and the Black Things was one of my clients. And he was doing this festival, the Exchange Festival. And he brought me the flyer, and it's got this cowboy, but that doesn't matter. And I said, you should do a pinup pageant. And he was like, okay, will you help me, you know, put that on and figure out how to do it? And I was like, sure. And he was like, will you enter it? I was like, sure. And the further things went, and the more I was actually planning it and telling him how to win, everything was like, I can't do that.
Right.
If I'm going to do this. So I was basically a silent host. I think I crowned the girls, but we didn't talk. We had 9 women. Some of them were later original dolls, so they went all of them. And I thought, that's a really good turnout. You know, we had different sizes and ages, and it really did what I wanted to do right off the bat. So that was very exciting. And Ivana Cupcake, that's the question you asked. Sorry. I had to think of a name to enter the first round. So my heritage, a lot of it's Eastern European. So I thought, looking on Ivana, like Ivana. And I looked up a few different ones, and most of them were taken in a lot of porn stars. So,
A lot of porn stars are named
and,
Ivana.
you know, it probably wouldn't have mattered because nobody's really going to Google it, but, and I didn't find out on a cupcake. I was like, definitely on a cupcake. I wish I could find an assistant and have her be Anita Cookie.
I need a cookie. Ivana cupcake and I need a cookie.
Isn't that perfect?
That would be perfect. That'd be a perfect assistant. I need a cookie.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
after a while, so many people knew me as Ruthie that I felt like when people saw the name written, they recognized it was me. But in general, nobody called me Ivana or anything like that. So one day I had another client ask me if Ruthie Borden was my real name. I said, "Yeah, why would it be my real name?" And she was like, "Well, Ruthie sounds all vintage, you know, and then Borden, Lizzie Borden, and all that." And I was like, which growing up, I definitely embraced as a golf girl.
Oh, I bet.
And so I was like, yeah, you know what? People already freaking know me. Why don't I just stick with that? So I don't do Ivana too much anymore. That, you know, there were other Ivanas involved in the world for a little bit.
Oh.
And I really didn't want to.
Right. Be associated.
Right. So that's,
with
you know,
the other Ivanas.
we stopped being we kind of was like, let's hold all that until we're a little bit more, you know, secure with how things are. So,
Right.
But yeah, we are doing a pageant here. Our first Halloween pageant since COVID.
Great, great. Did you? I remember the zombie one. You did the zombie pageant. That was really fun. You had so many girls in that.
Oh, back to the story that we're
Yes, yes, the origin story. Yes.
Okay, so the second year, we moved to another venue, and we still felt like the pageant was very much secondary to the show. And I had to cut it off at 30.
Oh wow.
We had 30 women. The oldest was about 65.
65.
Yeah.
65. In a pageant. That's
Pink
wonderful.
hair and full of tattoos.
Yeah.
I think she won best outfit actually. It was wonderful, and the girls, we had a Facebook chat going on, a group or whatever, where they could ask each other advice, talk about dresses, and it was very, even though it's a competitive thing in a way, it's just not as much as it was. I mean, there's been sour grapes here and there, but for the most part, everybody really enjoyed it. And, you know, we all loved getting dressed up, and let's face it, once you get to a certain age, unless you have something really spectacular going on, you don't wear those shoes you bought that you just love.
Right.
You know, a lot of
Very
times
true.
you don't put on your red lipstick, you don't do all that, but you feel awkward. I don't anymore. You guys know what I wear. You know, I'm pretty much always overdressed, but we decided, you know, safety in numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't feel awkward. So we went to Booty to see Johnny Black Frames, and everybody just loved that there was, you know, suddenly all these girls, these pinup girls, you know, dancing around and stuff. And I started getting messages from other bands that were like, hey, you know, can you girls come to this one, come to that one? Well, first off, we're going to have a name for
Yes.
whatever we are.
Yes.
So that's why, you know, Dixie Danger Dolls, dolls were best. And then shortly after that, we just kind of decided, well, we can be there.
Yeah.
You know, and Dog was the booker here, and we just started dating. So it was very easy for me to get dates. And the first one we did was Patriotic Bingo, and it was definitely a hit. And we just kept going from there. So,
Yeah. Yep. Dixie Danger Dolls.
now we're Danger Dolls.
Now you're Danger
We
Dolls.
were never really into Dixie. It just was the Dixie Danger Fest, which is really weird because Chad's from Michigan. And like all my family's from up north, and it was like, and that was slightly after or slightly before the whole Dixie controversy.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a good word. And I'm like, oh my God, that's pretty much.
Yeah. And some of us from up north, like we kind of point at the South because we're not really from here. Like I'm from Chicago, so we kind of point. So Dixie Danger, I mean that makes sense to me because you're on the other side of that Mason-Dixon. So
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So now it's Danger Dolls. And
Well, it's not really going on anymore. We kind of retired, at least for now, right before COVID. We all did so much for so long.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, people were in different stages of their life than they were 4 or 5 years before that.
yeah.
I'm so sorry, guys.
No,
I was like,
go
I'm
ahead.
gonna be able to talk.
Yeah.
I talk too much. All right, so we decided to, you know, take a hiatus. we did have a little reunion show for our Halloween show here this year. Many of the girls still come to our shows, and a lot of them still enter pageants, or all have them as judges or co-hosts. So we're all very close. It didn't end because everybody hated each other. It ended because we all loved each other, and we didn't want to burn it into the ground. So yes.
And you guys did a lot of, it was for charity.
Most of our shows had a charity aspect to them, and that was part of what the dolls were. Probably our biggest one that we ever did was at Sidetracks in She-Hall.
I remember She-Hall, yes.
And the biggest thing was, we had all those little, carnival games out the back.
Yes.
And Tony Kennedy, who was then at Clovers, but now owns Enchantises, was like, I'll hook you up with some prizes. And we're thinking, like, she's going to give us some of those, like, phono pills, which we actually wouldn't give those because, it felt like a liability. But, stuff like that, little things. And it's good. That is not the case. They brought, like, marital aids. Like, definite marital aids. So people were, like, spending $5 and getting one. But everybody loved it, and that's why we did one. It was for a charity called On Your Six, and it helped veterans with PTSD get service dogs.
Nice.
Emotional stories. So, yeah, we always try to, do something. And in a lot of our shows, we try to have a little bit of a charity aspect. It just doesn't happen because it does take a lot of people to pull one of those off.
Yes.
So,
And shows cost a lot of money to put on.
Yes.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. Because I did it for a while too. Your flyers, time, like even the time is probably one of the biggest things because you have to promote, and you don't only do that through social media.
Right.
Yes. And then to do it as awesomely as you do it, I mean, that takes a lot of time and effort and money because you pay for the things, you pay for
you just hope that you get it back while still training the bands really well. Our pageants are probably the most expensive because of TRs and all this stuff. But yeah, my show, it's weird because Dodd's shows are usually the larger, more well-known touring bands. Like we have DRI coming up this Thursday.
Yes, we're going to definitely talk about that. Yeah.
So his are more expensive because they have guarantees. So they're expensive in that way. But mine are more expensive because...
Hey, can you tell me where the budget in is?
This is live, that's why it's awesome. Because these are the kinds of things that happen.
Especially right here.
But also, what I always liked about the Dixie Danger dolls was that it was for everyone.
Right.
Like you didn't have to, like you said, you had a 65-year-old or something. It was body, like everything.
Oh yeah, we were very, very inclusive.
Very inclusive. You never knew who was going to win, or like I was surprised at some of the ones I went to. I was like, oh wow, that's awesome. Like,
right?
Yeah, but who the judges choose and how it works out, and it's so great to see every person just be able to have the confidence to be on the stage.
That's what I always say to begin with. It takes a lot of guts to get up there, especially the first time. After the first time, it's like, oh my god, it's so easy. But the last few pageants we've done, we haven't done questions at. I don't foresee us doing questions at the only reason we've done those is when it gets to such a large amount, there has to be another way to kind of throw through this. But it just.
You're right. We were talking about the inclusivity.
Thanks.
Yes. The inclusivity.
So yeah, that's been our big thing. Is it's body positivity, and that doesn't just mean curvy women. That means slim women, tall women, short women. Every race, every age, every orientation. We've had a very good understanding. It seems like. So that second year when we had 30, that's when we did the first questions. And if you are ever in one of our pageants that we do questions, you get the questions ahead of time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you just pick one from a fishbowl. So I want this to be the most easy, anxietyless. I mean, it can't be anxietyless because that's the anticipation.
Right.
But the simplest it can be. So, and the questions are never deep. It's like, who's your favorite Golden Girl superpower that you have? These very light questions. But yeah, after that, we really saw how inclusive. It was amazing to see that the first 9 women represented enough that in 1 year, so many people wanted to be involved. You know, and we really didn't like talk about it all year long or anything like that. You know, there's nothing. And that second pageant was the first time I was ever on stage. First time I ever spoke on stage.
Really? So all the other ones you won, they didn't ask questions and stuff like that. Oh wow.
Well, I take that back. Money Brutes did, but it was very short.
Gotcha.
You know, whereas this was, you know, I had to ask the questions to all these women.
Yeah.
And I found myself that I stopped being nervous as much because I was concentrating on making them feel comfortable. And that made me feel a little, and as an interview, you probably understand that too. You know, it's, you know, talking to somebody, it changes it than having to be on stage yourself. I mean, you are, you know. But, so yeah, I mean, we've done 3 Dixie Danger Fests. Or, I don't know if we did 2 or 3. I feel like we've done 3, but I know that the one that we were supposed to do was supposed to be at that Mercantile.
Oh
And then
yeah.
and then COVID happened.
And then yes, and COVID happened. Yeah.
We've done the Miss Zombie and the Vampire pageant.
Yep.
And then we did 2 Miss Firecracker pageants. That's like a 4th of July.
Right. I went to one of those. Yep.
Well, we did a Miss Rock and Roll, and that one was pretty fun. And we did a Miss Winter Wonderland, which was a fun concept, but a bad timing. I did it in the middle of December, and it was our only pageant that I was like, but that's bad timing. So if we ever decide to do that concept again, it'll be more like a February Wonderland, because that makes much more sense. To me, at least. You know, we've always tried to include in Under the Moon shows and in Dolls shows crowd participation. We have a lot of little contests throughout the time, like we're doing tonight, and always have little costume contests and stuff. So I feel like everybody should be celebrated when there's not enough opportunities for that to happen.
That's very true.
So,
There's not. So let's talk about Under the Moon, and that's you and Josh, and your company together, and you put shows on. Also, you do some recording in your home, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. So there's recording in the home, and then there's Under the Moon Productions, and gosh, you guys have booked so many people now. Like, there's been so many fantastic shows. And what you have coming up is DRI.
Yes.
That is this coming Thursday. And Cold Springs. Yes. And who's opening for them?
Property and Devil's Got a Hold.
Oh,
and,
fantastic.
Death Wish. They are the
They're touring more center.
Yes.
Okay. And DRI is on their way to Muddy Roots, because I'm going to see them in Muddy Roots too.
Yeah, we get the Muddy Roots going on.
Yeah. We always do. Yeah, Huntsville does get the Muddy Roots coming back and forth, which is really fun. All those years I didn't get to go to Muddy Roots. I didn't see bands there.
Yeah,
But now I go, so I see them again.
Yeah.
So it's going to be at Gold Spring Coffee Shop, which has a very cute where the bands play. They have a nice stage.
Yes.
It sounds really good in there, so
Yeah.
it does have really good sound.
Yeah, there'll be like, well, Josh will run sound. I know he's pretty happy with what they have, so
Yeah.
he's up to be on. They're going to do a lighting rig. I didn't realize how big of a shows that they've done there.
Yeah.
I know some of the Sluice Girls have done some of their bigger shows there.
Right.
They sent me a video, and I was like, what? It was like, you know, crowd surfing, mosh pit, tons of people. So if you've been there and you're wondering, how, I guess there's a partition wall.
Yeah, there is.
And they just put that back like accordion style, move out all the furniture, and
Yep.
there's a lot more room. So.
Yep. It's pretty neat decor too. They have
Yeah.
they have lots of animal heads and a bear and trophies all over the place. But she has an interesting story about that. So this Thursday, you definitely want to be at Gold Spring Coffee to see DRI. I don't know that they've ever played in Huntsville. They have never played in Huntsville before. This may be your one and only chance to get to see DRI here in Huntsville this Thursday.
And for $20.
And for $20, you
And
can't beat that.
If you buy them ahead of time, we have them on Best of Huntsville, or you can look at our page, or we have flyers all over the place.
Right.
With the little codes, you can get them for 20. Day of, they're going to be 25. I would suggest to get a ticket beforehand, just because when we moved the venues, we lost a little bit of capacity. Which, I mean, it's going to be, if anything, I think that's kind of cool in a way, because you're never going to see a band like that in a coffee shop. I mean,
In a coffee,
so
exactly.
close and everything, but that's just the way we wanted to keep it all ages. That was the big thing.
Awesome.
And
We don't have that many.
Very
all
much so
ages.
tried.
Yes, we don't have that many all ages venues, so that's so cool because then people can bring their teenagers and their kids, and that happens in shows like that. You always see some guy who, him and his kid listen to this music in the truck on the way to work or on the way to go fishing or something, and he gets to bring his kid to come and see them. That's amazing. And it is a good spot. I like the music venue area. And there's an outside little patio that you can
There's lots of
smoke.
parking.
There's
It might not look
lots
like
of
it, but to
parking.
the left, or I guess, yeah, whichever way you go, between them and Low Mill, there's a huge parking.
Yes,
So,
lots and lots of parking. And then you have another show, don't you,
Yes.
next Saturday?
yes.
Yes.
That was another quick one. So, I don't know if I'm just gonna be frank. We had the programs.
Oh, wow.
We hadn't been able to announce them yet because of war stuff. And then when Fractal closed, we didn't have anywhere with the capacity we needed to make the guarantee. It just wasn't gonna happen. So we had to let go of that show and give it to Birmingham. So kind of in return, a guy was like, hey, can you help me get this show? And I was like, that one I can do. So it's a band called Brat. I like to describe it, and by her aesthetic, it's kind of one of those metal Barbies, but not like the scantily clad metal Barbies. But she still has Barbie hair. But she's very, I can't make the word. It's very much so that.
Wow.
I feel like it's such a dichotomy. I love those kind of things.
Me too.
I just feel really cool.
Yeah.
And then we've got some great metal bands from around here. So you've got Witch Digger
Nice.
and Kamikaze Zombie. Gosh, is it Sanitarium? That sounds awful, I don't remember. But it's a band from Birmingham that has a female singer, and I've never heard them before.
Nice.
But Oliver from Kamikaze Zombie was like, you should really check them out. I think they'd be a good fit. So we've got great bands, and that show's only
$10, and it's at Copper Top.
Yes.
Okay, then that's awesome.
And Saturday.
And a Saturday, yes. Coming up a week from today.
Yes, everything is very compact.
Yes.
It's like not going.
This, and then, yes, a lot going.
And then we'll wait till hell.
Yes.
I say that, but who knows if I'll pick up something like this.
Right.
But I feel like until Halloween.
And the Halloween show is going to be here at Maggie Myers.
It's gonna be
Yes.
the biggest show.
It's going to be so big. So
Um,
big. I love the poster. You look amazing.
Thank you.
I've always loved that picture of you.
I took that picture years ago. You can tell by tattoos. I feel like that.
You've got more now than in that
Yes,
picture.
absolutely. You know, at the salon, I always put up a poster, and I'm sitting there looking at that poster. I think we're gonna have to make a little bit of a different poster.
Oh.
Because I just, I didn't think, like when I said online, I was like, I don't know if I should put myself on the poster. Part of it's like, even though I've had these pictures, it's
Mhm.
obvious, but it's weird to walk into Maggie's and be like, oh. But when you look at all the drag queen signs, they have a lot of boobs on it too.
They do,
They're
yes.
just they're plates, and God, they can like plate, I guess.
Yes, exactly. And it's a pageant, which is sexy.
Yes.
So you can be sexy in the sexy pageant. So there you go. Oh, something I'd love to ask you. So not a lot of women do this kind of work. This isn't something that a lot of women do. Not in Huntsville for sure.
Sure, I feel like there's a lot of people. Well, maybe not active.
Yes.
At one point.
I think that we did, especially when we had side chicks, we had a good group of women. And there's sluice girls, they do that too. But I guess, not just the Huntsville, but overall in general, like this type of work isn't something that a lot of women do. Do you ever feel like there's some difficulty with being a woman and doing this type of work?
I think on a local level or even regional level, I have not had that issue. Now, I also have a guard side, so that might be a little different, but I feel like the dance is always, very respectful, but I kind of had to learn not to be timid and to be very frank, which I've always kind of had that foot and mouth disease problem. So it was pretty easy. Now I have to remember, put a little sugar on it before you say it. But sometimes the touring bands will be a little bit more, you come with the green room. They're not being complete. It's not, I've only had one band or one member of one band who feel pretty uncomfortable. Right. But other than that, I haven't had too many, but with the bigger bands, I'm definitely seeing more as the side hostess, because that's what I do with Josh's shows. Right. You know, I don't really book them. He makes the flyers, things like that. I cook.
I was gonna bring that up, how we get to bring it, like, as women, when you do it, I do it, we bring out that, like, inner Julia Child,
Yes.
inner Betty Crocker, where we like to cook for the bands and bring the food, and that is a great part about that. We get to do, like, our homemaking, motherly stuff and share it with people who haven't had a home cooked meal, been on the road for a long time, and they're always very appreciative of that. So and that's one of the really fun things, I think, is getting to do that.
We kind of fell into it. So we contracts were there, and then there was the change. When the change happened, they weren't very, I don't know, generous doesn't seem like the right word, but they weren't helping us, basically. Because they were doing their thing, they had to concentrate on them, and I understand that. So basically, when you have a band, you know, you get a rider that has all the different things that they want, and then typically they have either you provide them dinner or you have a buyer, which can get kind of pricey, especially if you have multiple bands on the ticket and things. So I was looking at this, I thought, I can cook for cheaper than this. You know, so I would make ziti or shepherd's pie. I'd always make strawberry pretzel salad. It's a pain in the ass, but super easy, so it shows love. And there's nothing like Scott Wino, like going nuts over it. You know, it's like, oh my God. So it's a great feeling as far as that goes, and it just kind of started becoming our staple. And you know, we would do it for smaller shows sometimes too. It's like I said, it's fun. It's neat to have the appreciation, and they super appreciate it, especially if they put on more of a time. And because we get a lot of those, New Orleans punk doom kind of bands, metal band. I feel like we're on their way home a lot. So they've been there once, so they're super good here.
So if you had any advice to give anyone, like in general, about just in general, if you were to give anybody any advice, either about booking shows or pageants or just anything in general, what kind of advice would they get from you this week?
Expect the unexpected. Don't get upset when things don't go right as planned. You know, it's just one night. It's not your wedding. It's not, something big. I mean, now that it's well lit, you guys can see how wonderful all my 5th grade projects are. But here, I did them when I was, there's a little Dollar Tree, and it is the most.
We can't see it there, but
it's not the best globe, but I tried. But I would say, expect the unexpected. Don't let yourself. Everybody gets stressed before a show, especially big show. You can't not be. But you kind of have to try to turn that stress into more anticipation and excitement and very positive thinking. They're not always going to go well. You can try your hardest to put your heart into it. You can't be great. The crowds are fickle. There's lots of things going on now. So you can't take it personally and think that it's a slight against you or something.
I love that.
But it's hard at first.
Absolutely.
You're just like,
absolutely.
What are my friends here? And honestly, at a lot of our shows now, I've noticed that I'll see my familiar faces, but I see so many different faces, and that's something I really love. And, again, not to talk about other, venues and stuff, but a lot of times when you go to certain shows, it's the same group of people.
Yeah.
Which is great. We love to see those people, but I feel like I don't know. I don't believe it's an intentional thing. I think it follows with age and things like that. But even in the underground or subculture scene, there's still a lot of cliques, or groups. Maybe is a better way to put it, because they're not really, elitist. It's just So we've tried to do our best to kind of bridge some of that, and I think a lot of because of our promotion, we get a lot of people, and I feel like most people will come back.
Yeah. And that's the hope for it.
Right.
Yes.
Especially these kind of shows. Not everybody likes a hardcore show, but when it comes to the big fun ones, a lot of times people will be a little bit nervous and maybe not dress up or just kind of put a little bit into it, and then the second or third time they're just because they can see how much it's appreciated and celebrated, and everybody's excited about it. You can look as far out as you want. and you'll probably just get compliments.
Probably, absolutely, especially in a place like this where they do the drag shows here. It's very inclusive. Everybody's welcome. And yes, and nobody's gonna be like, you can't, oh my God, you can't look like that here. That doesn't happen here. It's not. This is a judgment-free zone, which is awesome.
And I've really enjoyed working with Maggie from the beginning, with the dolls and the love of Maggie. And once the dolls, really before the dolls ended, I started booking a little bit more just to do kind of side shows and things like that. So we've been booking for 6 years. 6 years. And I always try to think of it as an event. I mean, this was obviously a bigger event, but trying to do something a little different, a little different bands. Huntsville's got a lot of great musicians, but a lot of great musicians that are also in
Yes, they are in lots of different
So it can get kind of difficult at times to